Hey, how's it going, everybody, and welcome back into the SFS channel. My name's Gavin, and today we're going to take an early look ahead to Week 10 fantasy action. We are past the halfway point of this season, and obviously we are trying to construct the best fantasy rosters to get us down the stretch this year and get us to those championship games. Today we're looking at 5 running backs that I think are going to be those key contributors and potentially very, very crucial players in our fantasy lineups at a relatively affordable price to get us the rest of the way this season at the running back position. So with that being said, drop down, give today's episode a like, and click that subscribe button if you're new around here. We're trying to keep this community growing and become the most interactive fantasy channel on YouTube with all of you. So we will try to get back to as many of your comments and questions as possible. So drop those down in the comment section below before we get started or as they pop up through today's video. So with that being said, not wasting any more time, let's hit the intro and get right into today's video. Alrighty, so the first must-buy running back for me here in Week 10 is Michael Carter. Now, he didn't quite have the tremendous numbers again in Week 9 that he had back in Week 8 in that impressive breakout game against the Cincinnati Bengals. Only 7.5 fantasy points scored this week in half PPR. 49 rushing yards wasn't the incredibly dynamic receiving threat that we saw against the Bengals that week prior as well. But he was still involved in that game. The talent he flashed was still impressive enough to me. I think overall, the adversity that was tossed at the Jets here in Week 9 was very detrimental to Michael Carter's fantasy outlook for the week. You talk about playing a Colts defense that's already relatively sturdy against the run, so he wasn't getting free rushing lanes there. And then you transition early in the contest from Mike White, who was looking like he was going to lead a very successful offensive attack in that game, to Josh Johnson, who really struggled until late in that game when he rallied and brought them back within a couple of scores. But they really weren't in a situation where they could be running the football, and they were passing a lot, weren't able to do some design running back screens, get Carter the ball quickly out of the backfield as a pass catcher, and that really started to eat into his workload here. Again, only 7.5 points. He had, 26.5 in half PPR against the Bengals in Week 8. And I think that this is someone who, despite the down week last week, can have really high upside running back 2 numbers the rest of the way this season in PPR formats because, again, that usage is something I expect to continue to be very dynamic. I think he'll catch a lot of passes the rest of the way this year. And as this Jets offensive line continues to grow, they've got some young names up front as they develop more rapport, more chemistry. Hopefully he can get some increased efficiency behind those rushing attempts as well. Him and Ty Johnson have really grasped a hold of this offensive backfield. Carter's more of the rushing threat right now, and then the two of them split that receiving workload. Both of them have some utility in that fashion, but ultimately I think Michael Carter has clearly established himself as the top overall fantasy back for this offense. So for young, fresh legs, a rookie running back here for the Jets who they love to get the football, I think will continually place a level of importance on getting this playmaker the football in his hands. Michael Carter is going to be someone, again, in those PPR leagues who can get the job done. He gets some respectable amounts of goal line carries. He gets touches in the red zone, finds the end zone here and there, and again, receiving usage and hopeful increased efficiency in the rushing department will help Carter finish this season strong. Before I get into my next must-buy running back for Week 10 action, Eric and I want to take a quick sec to give a huge thanks to Manscaped for sponsoring today's episode. They've got all the best below-the-belt grooming products, and they've went ahead and hooked us up with the Performance Pack 4.0, and we'll get into all the goodies they've given us to treat our goodies here in just a second. But when you check out manscaped.com and shop for any number of their products, you will get 20% off and free shipping with promo code SIZZLE. That's SIZZLE, so go check that out. But here, easy. I've got something, a magical, a legendary, a revolutionary product called the Lawnmower 4.0, and you can use this for a variety of different tasks and utilities below your belt.
I know that Gavin and I use it on our legs, and you don't want those ingrown hairs, so it's got that anti-nick ceramic guard on there.
It's really fantastic.
I've used a lot of different trimmers in my life. This is definitely the safest. It's definitely helpful when you're in that nether region. It's got a light on it, so you can see. I know that's definitely an issue I faced, and even if you're using it in the shower, it's water resistant too.
That light made it way easier to see what's going on.
And, I got my Bears jersey on. You don't want to be looking like a Bear, even if you're a Bears fan. I know the season is kind of a bear for the Bears, and I don't want to be looking like a Bear, even if it's a Bear, if it's a Bear season. But the lawnmower, fantastic. With that, you're in the shower. You got to get the body wash, too. It's got that signature Manscaped scent. With the body wash, we love it. Gavin even stole a pump from mine today. He gave up the beans. He spilled the beans. He told me that he did it.
I had to admit that I couldn't resist
the
scent coming out of the bottle.
The pump of the scent.
The one pump chump.
The one. And he has the crop preserver, too. I use it after I get out of the shower. It's that ball deodorant. I love that. I used to use Gold Bond, and it's just like, it's hard to use that powder. It's not comfortable. This is not offensive. I've really enjoyed that. You've got to have a little deodorant on the underside, or cologne. That's the deodorant. You combine the two. You get the cologne in there, another signature scent.
You can't leave Big Jim and Twins smelling like
a
load of trash.
You can't let it happen. And then when you finish it off, Gavin, why don't you hold it up? We got the Tom Brady ball. No, it's beautiful. We won't get any fines for this one.
The tool shed to hold all of your goodies within it. Beautiful leather. It feels, I might not look like a man, but I feel like a man when I put my tools in the shed.
Right. You have, maybe your girlfriend has their makeup bag. This is the man makeup bag. This is your spa day in a football. How about that?
For sure. Once again, you guys, manscaped.com, promo code SIZZLE. That'll get you free shipping and 20% off on a variety of products, including everything we've just shown you. Go check out the Performance Pack 4.0. and get all of your below-the-belt grooming products. Alrighty, guys, there you have it. Make sure that you treat your yard well, groom it properly, and use the Lawnmower 4.0 to get the job done this NFL season. Javonte Williams here is our next must-buy running back. Despite the fact he's coming off his best game, I still think that there is a lot of room for him to be bought, again, not at a gaudy price or something that's going to be unattainable for a lot of fantasy managers and teams out there. 111 yards rushing, but no passes caught, no touchdowns scored. I will say, I think he was completely robbed of a TD. I think he rolled over into the end zone. I didn't see a needed hit on the various angles of camera that they showed. Whatever, it's over and done with, but I think there was 6 points left hanging on the board for Javonte Williams owners. And for someone who had to start him in 2 leagues because of injuries, he ended up putting up a pretty nice outing for me. But Javonte Williams has all of the makings that you're looking for to have a quality low RB2 floor for teams in situations that have to start him right away. But he also is in a situation where if something were to happen to Melvin Gordon, whether he misses games because of COVID, injury, whatever the case might be, and it's not that this is something that is guaranteed to happen, because obviously that would be a stretch to just project those type of things. Javonte is the type of player who has absolutely a 3-down skill set. He is 100% a player who has the makings of being a workhorse running back in this league. He can be efficient with the rushing attempts. He can catch the football, and he is able to have goal line carries. Now, the team does typically defer to Melvin Gordon at this current point in time, but Javonte absolutely has the size, the frame, and the skill set to be productive in that area of the field. I just really like the upside here for what could, again, happen if he is to impress the Denver Broncos coaching staff more than Melvin Gordon does. Now, it'd be late in the year to see a complete transition and just to see Melvin axed out of the workload. But they're almost dead even in touches every week. And more often than not, it flip-flops. It's not 100%, but Javonte tends to be the more efficient player. So over the course of the season, down the stretch here, at worst, I think you're getting yourself a lower-end RB2 who can be serviceable in start, in half PPR or standard scoring. He's not quite as valuable in PPR leagues. He has had a couple of impressive pass-catching games where he had a nice receiving total, but typically he's used more on the ground. I just think overall this is a can't-lose situation as long as you don't grossly overpay for Javonte. Again, he can get the job done on the ground. He can catch passes through the air. He'll score a touchdown every once in a while. And if something were to happen, his ceiling could skyrocket astronomically in terms of what he could mean to your fantasy roster down the stretch. Now, we don't want to project anything bad to happen to Melvin Gordon, obviously. We're not saying that's going to be the case, but I have seen this in other situations down the stretch of a fantasy season. A team lets their young rookie running back take over, get the full workload, and then it's off to the races from there, and they're incredibly productive players. And with the talent Javonte has, that's certainly not out of the picture just yet. Josh Jacobs. Never in a million years, if you've been around here on the channel, did you probably expect to see Josh Jacobs pop up in a must-buy running backs video. But here's the deal. Since John Gruden's departure, we are seeing very positive signs in the usage of Josh Jacobs, which might potentially give him the chance to live up to the expectations I placed upon him once upon a time when he was a rookie coming into this league as a first-round pick of the, at the time, Oakland Raiders. Josh Jacobs right now, plain and simple, is someone who is getting the job done at a quality enough RB2 level of production that with the absolute atrocity that we have at the running back position right now, he might be able to stabilize some running back cores out there and give them the RB2 level productivity that they need for their fantasy lineups to take the next step and to be able to compete on a consistent week-to-week basis. Is Josh Jacobs going to win your fantasy league? No. Is Josh Jacobs someone who is a RB1 top 12 level producer? Probably not. I'm not there yet. But is he someone who can come into a team that is either in a situation where they have one or no consistent RB2 level players, that they are in such a desperate spot that they could use someone to give them a steady 10 to 15 points of production and again, stabilize that running back core? Absolutely. I think you can depend on Josh Jacobs' floor the rest of the season to be a consistently at-play factor here and give fantasy managers something that they can feel they can depend on at that position, which again, right now is an absolute disaster for a lot of leagues out there. I'm sure basically everyone watching this video, whether you're in one league or five, is in some level of running back scarcity, pandemonium, and panic. So I think that Josh Jacobs, if you can use another running back, or if you can use one of the players who this past week, I had a lot of running backs who I am typically looking to sell for the rest of the season as must starts because I love the matchup and they tended to produce here, Myles Gaskin namely being one of them. I'd flip Myles Gaskin in 2 seconds to get a Josh Jacobs on my team, or if you've got a plethora and a depth of wide receivers, you can use them as trade assets as well. But Josh Jacobs here, just a couple more things to touch on. 17 touches this week, 7 targets over the last 2 games. He's caught 100% of his targets the last 2 weeks, which is a very encouraging sign as someone who typically over the last couple of years has not been involved as a pass catcher, averaging 3.5 receptions per game, again, post John Gruden here. 76 rushing yards on those 17 touches. That is a season high in the rushing department, and 5.4 yards per carry, only 13 carries. That's from pretty dang good efficiency that we also have not seen out of Josh Jacobs in the recent past here. So the arrow's pointing upwards. Josh Jacobs trending up right now. RB2 is what you should expect from him going forward. That's the expectation I would have when trading for Jacobs the rest of the season. But someone, again, quality, can get the job done. I think that he can stabilize a lot of running back units out there. David Montgomery, we talked about him a little bit in our trade advice episode last week. I'm going to talk about him again here today. Now, this video is going up, notably, Monday morning. We like to get our trade advice out there early in the week, let you guys start preparing your trade packages so that once Tuesday hits, the game slate is wiped clean, and we're moving on to the coming week here. You're able to get those trades out there accepted, and then if you're playing guys on Thursday, you can potentially get that haul in the trade processing period. Some leagues out there have 48-hour trade processing periods. You can get those players on your roster in a timely fashion, get access to those guys for this week's games, so on and so forth. David Montgomery is playing on Monday night tonight. So this, of course, is barring re-injury. David Montgomery hyperextended his knee early on this season. And much to my distaste, Eric is a Bears fan. He doesn't seem too concerned about it. But much to my dissatisfaction, Matt Nagy is supposedly, most likely at the time of recording, activating David Montgomery. He said there's a very, very good chance he plays for the Pittsburgh Steelers game. Now, I don't like this at all. Bears have a bye next week. Shut him down. Let him get healthy. Don't risk it. It's probably a must-win game for the Bears in terms of playoff contention. But outside of that, I mean, Khalil Herbert has been giving you fantastic numbers in Montgomery's absence. I wouldn't push it here and risk Montgomery's long-term health. That's just me. It sounds like he's playing, though. My thought process here early on this morning is that if you can get David Montgomery for a lower price right now than he will be the rest of this year, why not do it? With the way the running back landscape is unfolding, he could be a top 12 play from weeks 11 to 18 this year, because look back at how he finished last year. He had a very easy schedule, but the workhorse level of carries, the receiving game involvement, and the touchdowns he scored absolutely vaulted him up, and he finished as RB4 or 5 last year in half PPR scoring. So this is somebody whose usage level, his production, and just his overall dependability can give you some really, really great things in your lineups on a week-to-week basis. The value right now, the stock is probably as low as it's going to get, obviously, up until that week 11 marker. And another dynamic that could potentially play out here, now this is totally projection-based because, again, this is coming out Monday morning, so we have not seen him play yet. If David Montgomery plays in this game, which it sounds like, again, he's going to, if he comes out in limited fashion, if he's not entirely worked into this offense, his production might be down. And for David Montgomery owners who just simply look at the box score, don't watch the game, don't analyze anything, there might be another opportunity here where they look, see, him and Khalil Herbert had even touches, for example. David Montgomery produced under 10 points of scoring, but they don't realize he's being slowly worked into this offense. Maybe he doesn't produce quite up to standard against Pittsburgh. It's his first game back. Personally, as a fantasy manager and an owner of David Montgomery in a lot of leagues, I'm not expecting all that much from him in this game if he is able to play. So there's a buy low element here to Montgomery because I think that for a player of his upside, his caliber, his production potential, this is one of the cheapest options we've got out there in the fantasy world right now. Montgomery is absolutely someone I'm tossing out offers for if you can afford to wait. Obviously, if you're trading for Montgomery right now, he's probably going to be locked in for the other team. You're not going to be able to access him this week. On the bye next week, you're not going to get his production there. Barring re-injury, though, if you can get David Montgomery for the long haul the rest of the way this season, we're crossing the halfway mark now. Something I'm absolutely looking into and doing for my rosters. Should be a way to potentially, again, get maybe a top 12 level performer from weeks 11 onward, or even a high upside RB2, I think is his floor when reintroduced to that Bears offense. And then Austin Ekeler here. This is the big ticket player for this week, the player that is going to be the most difficult for teams to acquire, and it's probably going to be the least likely outcome for teams to get Austin Ekeler's services acquired to their fantasy lineups. But simply here, he did not perform up to his potential this week. That's 2 of the last 3 games with a bye week sandwich in between them that Austin Ekeler hasn't quite lived up to expectations. An example of a trade I would make today for Austin Ekeler is you look at Nick Chubb. Everything went right in that Browns game against the Bengals. Big lead. The Browns are front running for basically 3/4 of that game. Heck, Joe Burrow started the game with a pick 6. So if you want to say the Browns were front running for 4 quarters, all the better. Touchdowns, 2 on the goal line. None vultured from Nick Chubb this week. No Kareem Hunt in the lineup. He had a nice reception, which again was kind of fluky. It was a really odd-looking play. Everything that could have went right for Nick Chubb this week happened to go right for him, and all of the production potential for Austin Ekeler was not capitalized upon. Ekeler is a much more dynamically involved player in his offense in LA than Nick Chubb is in Cleveland. This is something I talked about a couple weeks ago when we talked about Nick Chubb as a buy low player because his production was down because he was coming off injury. I said in that video, you can take advantage, buy Nick Chubb now, maybe in a couple weeks when this situation is at its most optimal point. You then turn around and flip him for an even better asset. Now, this is getting a little bit finicky for some leagues out there. Some leagues won't put up with this, but there is a potential in a lot of fantasy leagues, a lot of formats, a lot of indecisive fantasy managers, whatever the case might be. They get really trade happy. They overreact to overwhelming performances or underwhelming performances. Get Austin Ekeler, the pass catching back, scores touchdowns, very involved in his offense. take advantage of the situation. If you can find another running back who is in that lower tier of RB1 status to sell high for an Austin Ekeler, who is, by certainly no stretch of the imagination, a buy low, but someone whose stock is lower right now, an opportunity that I'm looking to explore for any team this week, because, again, I always say this, there's no point in withholding an offer because it seems unrealistic. If you understand what I'm saying here, you never know when somebody in your league might accept a trade. Now, maybe, okay, you know that Jimmy really loves the Chargers, so he's not going to trade Austin Ekeler, but you get what I'm saying here. There is more likely than not a chance that a deal can be made for the right price. That price is going to vary across leagues. That's going to be unrealistic for some leagues out there. But if you've got the chance, Austin Ekeler is definitely a price I am going to do my market research in my individual leagues across. I mean, I've got like 12 of them this year. But that's something I'm definitely exploring for Austin Ekeler here in Week 10. Alrighty, those were our 5 running backs that we are looking to buy here for Week 10 action. Let us know down in the comment section below. What trades are you looking to send this week? What offers have you received? Any advice you need, drop that down in the comment section below, and we will get back to as many of you all as possible, because we appreciate you taking the time to watch our videos and support our content here at SFS. So, thank you all so much for tuning in. I will see you guys next time. Go check out some of the other videos we posted today. This is one of 3 that we've got up and fresh for you here on a Monday morning. Also, one more time, Thrive Fantasy, promo code SIZZLE when you deposit between $10 and $100, gets you that instant deposit match and a free month of SFS Gold. So, with that being said, we'll see you guys around. Peace out.